Hi-ho, folks, and welcome back to the adventures of Turwinkle, the Gnome Mage. Well, hi, Turwinkle.
Salutations.
Are you all set for today?
Sure.
Well, great, because today, as you can see, we are in Hearthglen, and we are here to talk to Bjorn of the Argent Onslaught. That's right, we're going to find out all about his RP, and a little bit about him, and maybe get some advice for you new RPers out there. So, with that, let us go and find Bjorn of the Argent Onslaught. Alrighty, folks. Well, as you can see, we are in the Mage Tower, and yep, there he is, Bjorn himself. And he has got his pet Thea with him. Hello, sir.
Oh, hello there.
And it's good to see you are a well-read sir.
Oh, absolutely. I eat 2 books daily.
Nice. And Thea enjoys it in here as well, out of the weather and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. It echoes, so she likes to talk to herself every now and then.
Okay. All right, so folks, we have Bjorn, captain of the Argent Onslaught. He is Bjorn, guardian of Sonaris. He is a level 90 human warrior. And again, we're going to have the fun pleasure of getting the opportunity to learn all about your RP, all about Bjorn, and maybe, like I said, get some advice from you for those new RPers out there. And so the first question we always ask, sir, is, well, first of all, is Bjorn your full name, or does he have a last name as well?
His full name is Bjorn Blackmane. As you can tell, he has black hair, which is, pretty obvious.
Oh, okay. And so how did you come up with the name? Is it out of a book, or is it just something you came up with on the fly?
Both names are actually a mixed match from a different universe. Perhaps you are familiar with it, Warhammer 40,000. There is Bjorn the Fell-Handed and Ragnar Blackmane. And I took, first name, last name, and mixed them together, and it came out like this.
All right, and how long have you played Bjorn?
Oh, that's a good question. I think he's been maybe 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
And so if you do a slash played, sir, what does that information give you?
Total time played is 200 days.
Wonderful. Now, when you made Bjorn, did you already have kind of a backstory in mind, or was it something that you have allowed to happen kind of naturally as you've gone along?
Oh, definitely. I was pretty new to roleplay when I started playing, and I will say that his very first story, his background and everything was not the best, so to speak. So he has been through a few revisions every now and then. So I really didn't step into the realm of Warcraft with a set story or anything like that. It's changed on the fly about 3 or 4 times in the past times I've played.
All right, well, folks, when we come back, we're going to find out what that background history is at the current moment and find out what Bjorn's history is. So we'll be right back with that. Alrighty, folks, and we are back. And so Bjorn, what is his history? Where does he come from, and what's his storyline?
Well, Bjorn comes from the Alterac Mountains. I kind of, in the terms of World of Warcraft, I would believe that Alterac Mountain would be a bit bigger. So he comes from around the, up in the mountain regions, kind of like, little mountain villages and clans and tribes, such like that. So he comes from there, and he's been traveling the world ever since, really. He has, ever since he hit his adulthood, he left, he traveled over to Kalimdor, and kind of got noticed by a few Cenarians due to his mountainous living. He kind of reveres nature, almost like a druid would to an extent, because he lived in that element. He lived where it was definitely nature. If you mess with Mother Nature, she's gonna mess with you back. So you definitely have to respect her. And they were like, oh, well, there's a human that actually respects nature here. That's kind of interesting. And so they kind of hired him up, trained him up, and everything like that. So yeah,
Excellent. Now,
he's
are
a good old mountain boy.
sure, are his folks still alive?
I'm kind of afraid to say this because it's such a rarity. Yes, they are actually.
Oh wow. Okay. No horrible tragedy befell your family. You're going with the same storyline I've gone with, and for the same reasons. You know, not every character should have his parents die in some horrible tragedy.
Oh no. They are alive and well, and Bjorn visits them every holiday, every chance he gets.
Oh, wonderful. Does he have any brothers and sisters?
He does have a nephew, as a matter of fact, named McVinner. He's a lowlander, as Bjorn likes to call him. He comes from his extended family that kind of moved down the mountains into Alterac itself, and he survived. And he's a ex-syndicate member that's actually a scout for the Argent Crusade right now. And it's kind of a bad blood between them because Bjorn's that nice, happy, jovial man that always does good, and McVinner's this scummy, backstabbing, cynical criminal.
Yeah. Okay. So that definitely adds some flavor to the storyline, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
And so, what happened next? You were trained up because you revered nature by these druids, and so what happened next? Where'd you go from there?
Well, after he was trained, he's kind of the odd child out, so to speak. The Cenarian Circle would obviously have soldiers, so he was kind of a foot soldier for the Cenarian Circles. He was a guard for a few druids that would go and try and fix things, guard for ambassadors and emissaries, and generally a fighting man, so to speak. His story doesn't really pick up until the Hydula outbreak, as I call it, where the Twilight cultists decide to we're gonna mess up with Hydula, and so that's where he definitely had his first real military campaign, and that's where a lot of his story comes from.
All right, and then when did he find himself in the Argent's onslaught?
Well, after the Hydula outbreak, so to speak, he was very injured during the Hydula outbreak. He was captured and tortured. His back is really messed up. So they decided, well, we're not going to have you fight anymore. We kind of need a human to help with other human dealings. So they were like, we'll make you an emissary. So Bjorn took the deal, and he's been an emissary. And how he came into the Argent onslaught was the Argents and the Cenarians are working together to fix the Plague Lands, and so think of it as a liaison type situation or an exchange student type thing.
Oh, okay, a joint venture between the two organizations.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, perfect. All right, folks, so when we come back, we are going to talk about Bjorn's RP style. So we're going to find out about that next. And we're back. And so, Bjorn, what do you consider your RP style to be? Are you a heavy, medium, light RPer? Do you multi-paragraph? What kind of style do you have?
Definitely a heavy role player. I also role play a non-combat pet, as you can tell, Thea here. I've been role playing her for a while, so it's kind of like a chemistry. Bjorn's the brawn, he's the thumbs, and Thea's the brain.
Oh, okay. So explain, Thea. How did you meet Thea, and how does Thea play a role in your RP?
Well, when Bjorn was in Boonglade being taught by the good old druids, he was also trained in medical arts as well, and medical herbalism and all that stuff. And so one day he was out traveling and he noticed a wounded creature, and it was Thea. She was, completely terrified of Bjorn, of course. She hid herself into a tree trunk, and Bjorn had to get her out. And a lot of biting ensued, so Bjorn took it up to the the head teacher of his class and was like, I found this. And it was like, oh, well, hey, guess what? You can have a test. If you can save her life, I might just pass you. So it took a few weeks. Bjorn nursed Thea back to health and was going to release her but she didn't actually take to the releasing, so ever since then she's been with Bjorn as a constant companion.
Okay, and again, I think I saw her meeping at the tournament.
Oh yes. What happened there was Bjorn took her back to Hydla to have a sort of a play date with the other sprite darters and fairy dragons there, and as you can tell, fairy dragons actually know how to speak kind of broken language, kind of commonish. They know how to speak common, but not very well. And so she hanged out with them, had some fun, and one of them said meep. And Thea was like, meep? She meeped back. And ever since then, she's been using meep as a language. I call it Meepanese, and very few people speak it.
But you do, sir. Bjorn speaks Meepanese, is that correct?
Oh, yes, he does. There will be many times, and you will see him talking with her, and she'll be meeping back, and it's a back and forth thing, kind of like a father and a daughter sort of thing.
Okay. All right, so you're a heavy role player. So do you multi-paragraph? Do you are you heavy into your emotes? What kind of style of heavy RP do you use?
I would say, sort of multi-paragraphed every now and then. I try to get to the point. I don't put like a whole ton of detail into everything. Straightforward to the point. Get it out there so we can keep the RP going on. I don't like taking up people's time too much to type and such.
All right. And when did you first start role-playing in World of Warcraft?
Oh, Bjorn was my first roleplay character in this. As a matter of fact, I started roleplaying back in an old game called Star Wars Galaxies. That was my first roleplay experience, and it carried over to this. I used to be one of those guys that viewed roleplayers as really weird kids. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what's wrong with you? You're weird. And then I was like, wait a minute, this actually seems kind of fun. So I have to thank the roleplayers for infecting me with the roleplay virus, because ever since then I've actually figured out just how fun it is. And I've been playing him ever since 2010. It's been steady venture ever since.
Well, excellent. And so, folks, when we come back, we'll get a little bit of history on Bjorn's roleplay and find out about that game that he first did his role-playing adventuring in. And then we'll see where we go from there. So we'll be right back with that. Alrighty, and we are back. And so, Bjorn, what is your RP history? You said you first started in Star Wars Galaxies?
That is correct. So I've been playing that game ever since pre-CU, for those that know. For those that don't know, pre-combat upgrade was kind of the quintessential Star Wars Galaxies experience. I will not get into detail about that, but I RP'd around to the end of the game when it died out, and there was one server left that was called, I believe, Starsighter. That was a main roleplay server, and it became like the mega server, so to speak. And that was when I really started looking into roleplay and seeing people roleplay in public, and I was like, it's kind of interesting, So I made it. My first character was, I believe his name was Elam Rocco. He was or Elam Racco. Cannot remember how to pronounce that name. Please forgive me. He was a bit of a journeyman bounty hunter, so to speak, and he sort of kind of like Bjorn a little bit, a kind of happy, jovial type guy. Except he was more criminally minded due to the fact that he was a bounty hunter, and he kind of came from mean streets and such.
All right, and so the game died out, and is that when you moved to World of Warcraft?
Actually, I've been playing World of Warcraft during Star Wars Galaxies. I played in vanilla on a different server, different name, all that nonsense. And so I started role-playing Star Wars Galaxies, and I was like, maybe there's role-play on World of War. Oh, no, there is. Huh, Moonguard. We'll go to Moonguard. We'll see how that turns out. And ever since then, I've been here, called Moonguard my home. Kind of forgot all my old past, my old gritty, bad past of World of Warcraft, and being one of those guys that harassed other people. I had like a change of leaf, so to speak.
Okay, well, that's always good to get new RPers into the fold. And so, did you have any folks that helped you out when you first started role-playing?
Not really. I kind of just did it by the seat of my pants. I didn't really ask for help. I was like, I'll just read up some lore and, press the button and see how it turns out.
And how did it turn out?
Oh, well, let me get the list here. Well, in the beginning of my World of Warcraft experience, I did a lot of fanon, a lot of made-up stuff that I thought was cool and neat and gritty and stuff. And some people liked it, some people didn't. I will not name names. I have most likely forgotten. But that's when I kind of changed up Bjorn's history a lot. He's been through 3 revisions so far, and this is the last one. This is the solid, the foundation, so to speak. It's not going to change from here.
All right, go ahead and, again, we can't see your MRP because of we're cross-realmed, Turwinkle being from Wormrest Accord, and you on Moonguard. And again, hopefully that is fixed in upcoming patches and whatnot because of all the cross-realming. But if you could just read to us what someone might read when they open up your MRP.
Well, the first thing is you would obviously look at my name, look at the bar in my name, and you would see the MRP window would pop up as Bjorn Blackmane. He has a few titles such as Cenarian Emissary, Physician, and of course the always popular Thea Perch. And the last title is a Vomtog and Proof Practitioner, which is a German school of fencing stance that he is trained in. Of course, going on, he has a few nicknames such as Bear, obviously. Bjorn means bear in the language. Treefoot, which I will get into later, and Verdant, which I will also get into later. He is of the Cenarian Circle. Of course, he's the captain of the Argent Onslaught. And his currency is, as cheesy as it is, Bjorn to be wild. And being a Thea.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
All
His
right,
RP
folks.
styles are immature, sprite darter, and generally icy.
All right. Well, excellent. So, folks, that's what you would get, again, if you're on Moonguard and you do have MRP. And you do use MRP, is that correct, sir?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's what you get if you have the MRP and you can see what his MRP would read. And so, folks, when we come back, we're going to get a little peek behind the scenes there about the player behind Bjorn and find out a little bit about him as well. So we'll be right back with that. Alrighty, folks. Well, we've come to the part of the interview where we find out a little bit about the player behind the screen. And the reason why we do this is, again, to break those stereotypes of what a role player is supposed to be. And they're not all 40-year-old guys living in their mom and dad's basement eating Cheetos all day, but there are people with different different backgrounds, different professions, and different hobbies and things that they like to do. And so Bjorn is no exception. And so Bjorn, first of all, what do you do outside the game?
Oh, what I do outside the game? I'm just a 23-year-old guy. Live my life. I take care of animals and wildlife. I am working on getting a education in HVAC mechanicry and fixing things. Going to be going to a apprenticeship program, learning welding, all that good nonsense. Good old useful skills to have in the world.
Okay, awesome. And do you have any other hobbies other than WoW?
I do role play in other games such as Warhammer 40k RPs, Dark Heresy, Black Crusade, Only War. I'm getting into Star Wars, Edge of the Empire, and Age of the Rebellion because my roots are based in Star Wars RP, so it's kind of a nice homage to where I started from and where I came from.
Okay. Do you do any tabletop roleplay?
No, I do not do tabletop. As a matter of fact, there is a website. I will go ahead and advertise this and hopefully get some people interested. Roll20, it's a website. You make your games, you look for groups, and you have a good time. It's a built-in system. It's like a virtual tabletop, so to speak.
Oh, awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun. And so role players can come and do different types of role-playing games, tabletop games, is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Looking through the list, they have a lot of stuff. They have your typical, Dungeons and Dragons, your Pathfinder, your Warhammer, your Star Wars, and then you're getting kind of like the obscure stuff, like World of Darkness and all that type of stuff.
Wow, awesome.
It really has a broad audience.
All right, sir. Do you read at all? Do you have any favorite books or something you're reading now?
Oh,
or-
yes.
Oh,
I'm
excellent.
going to sound like a broken record, but read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. I am definitely currently into Warhammer 40k books, Horus Heresy, Gaunt's Ghost, Eisenhorn. If you are looking to get into Warhammer, I would definitely suggest you start with Gaunt's Ghost. It's a very large series from start to finish. It's still going on. There's about, I think, 12 books in this entire series. It's just adding on. Dan Abnett is a great writer, and I highly suggest, if you have any interest, to definitely pick up Gaunt's Ghost and, have a good time. It's a great book.
Excellent. Now, do you find that by reading those types of books that it helps in your role play?
Oh yes, Bjorn is definitely I've definitely taken a lot of different universes and kind of added him to it. Warhammer has definitely had a lot of influence on Bjorn as a character and what he looks like and what he does. Excuse me, rambling on here. He has Gaunt's Ghost series obviously has given me a lot of influence. He's a Tanith. He's kind of like a Tanith. In the book, the Tanith are from a dead world. Of course, Bjorn's not from a dead world, but their skin color, their attitudes, and their looks, pale skin, black hair, blue eyes, tattoos. That's definitely Bjorn.
All right, awesome. And so, in what ways is Bjorn like you, sir?
Oh, definitely the animal parts. Takes care of Thea. I take care of wildlife a lot. I have taken care of a few animals, basic animals, taken care of squirrels, kind of nursed them back to health. Same with blue jays that are still living today. They would come to my backyard and screech till I come outside and feed them. So, stinky old hippie, I guess.
Okay, well that's awesome. That's great. And in what ways are you different from Bjorn?
Well, I'm not 5'10", and I'm definitely not a stocky hunk of a man. I don't have a fairy dragon. And I don't swing swords around my head, and I don't have an accent.
But you do butt head things, don't you?
Oh, every now and then, maybe.
All right, well, excellent. And so, folks, when we come back, we'll get a little bit more of Bjorn's MRP and find out a little bit more about exactly that, his description of what you would see if you ran across Bjorn on the street. So we'll be right back with that. All right, Bjorn, we're back, and say Turwinkle ran up to you on the streets here. What would he see? What do you have written as far as your description of Bjorn?
Well, what it would see is a very large, intimidating man that's only 5'10", and he has a fairy dragon on his shoulder that me. But in more detail, of course, he would have. We'll go over his description in my MRP and all that stuff. He has blue eyes, as stated before. He's obviously a human, as you can tell. Of course, some people question that. And of course, his height is 5'10", and his weight is, we'll just say plenty.
Plenty, okay.
Yes. And of course, getting into descriptions, I have made a list of stuff such as hair in his face and whatnot. The very first thing would be his hair. Now, the man's hair was black, somewhat wild, all tied up and whatnot. He has a very large beard, kind of on par with the dwarves. It's very hard to not see him stroking his beard every now and then, kind of like a weird, pale-skinned Guan Yu, I guess.
Okay.
He's definitely not a friend with a barber.
All right. Now, you'd mentioned he has tree feet. Is that correct?
He has a tree foot.
Oh, a tree foot.
What happened was tree foot. His right foot, to be exact. What happened was the Argent Onslaught does a D20 events every now and then, and sadly, I rolled bad enough for my defense, and I got a natural 1. And natural 1s on defense, kind of a bad thing, So I got hurt. And I was going through my mind, what do I want to do? What do I want, something interesting, something creative. So he got his right foot cut off right at the ankle.
Wow.
And so what happened was, So what happened is, being Cenarian Circle, obviously, his druid buddies helped him up, and gave him a foot made out of ironwood vine. They've controlled the growth of it, so it's kind of like, I want to say, it's like a foot shaped like a human foot, but it's made out of vines. And they ride and whatnot. And for toes, he has little buds on the end of his toes, and depending on his mood, they do blossom. As a matter of fact.
Okay.
The very first time I did this was he was getting annoyed, and he pinched the bridge of his nose, and well, lo and behold, he has white flowers for his toes.
All right. And you also mentioned Verdant.
Oh yes, Verdant is a story, as a matter of fact. His very first mission as a Cenarian emissary. They used code words, and his was Verdant. And so it was kind of like a guild RP, kind of between friends and whatnot. Kind of make it a story a little bit. It was trying to hunt down this corrupted noble that's trying to influence this ring of other nobles that kind of supports the Cenarian circle. Kind of like a Twilight cultist in disguise. So what happened was, Bjorn showed up on the scene, diplomacy going down. We're like, alright, we're gonna do this by the books. This person's gonna come out and we're gonna snatch him. Wait a second, where's Verdant? And Verdant is walking straight into the courtroom, and he confronts this cultist, which turns out to be a gigantic brawl between him and this empowered cultist. Bjorn gets stabbed a few times, gets thrown through chairs and windows and whatnot. It just erupts into a street fight, basically. And as I said before, as my friend said before, headbutting is a valid technique. And I ended that fight with a well-placed headbutt to the nose of the bridge, and all in all, everything went well. We saved the nobles, we saved the courts, and the Cenarian circle goes about being the Cenarian circle.
Excellent, sir. Excellent. And so, folks, when we come back, we're going to get some advice from Bjorn for those new RPers out there. So hang on to your seats. We'll be right back with that. All right, and we are back with some advice for those new role players out there. Bjorn, what would you tell someone that's thinking about rolling up a character to start role-playing with?
Well, I really hope they're not seeing this episode, because you're gonna need some help, buddy. But moving on, I would definitely tell you, don't knock it until you try it. Coming from personal experience, I always thought role players were, as you said, 40-year-old idiots that are have too much time on their hands. And lo and behold, I have too much time on my hands, but I'm not an idiot. I'm 40 years old, so definitely give it a try. Don't knock it till you try it. Don't harass people. Be like, oh, yeah, I'm better than you because I don't role play, but. And then in the end, it's like, well, those people are happy with what they do, so, let them be happy. But for legitimate advice, I can always pair what other interviewers have said. Learn your lore, don't be afraid, just come in with a positive attitude. Now, if I'm going to go for me, I would say, learn your lore, but be creative, be original. Don't copy-paste everything you see from somebody else, because sometimes you're not going to do what somebody else can do. If you're going to make, like, say, a rogue criminal, there's so many rogue criminals out there. Make your character interesting. Don't say, like, oh, this is just another rogue criminal that I thought up of. Make it interesting. Maybe like, oh, well, this is a rogue criminal that is currently trying to make amends, or this rogue is actually something, not a rogue. This person is a really skilled swordsman that's employed to somebody hunt down people, like a bounty hunter, so to speak. Just kind of break the stereotypes of your class, like I have. You can always have warriors, but a Cenarian warrior, that's kind of out there. But it's kind of creative at the same time, because you would look at Cenarians, you'd say, oh, it's just going to be druids and everything. No, it's not just druids. Every order in this, every lore behind every order would definitely be there's infantry, there's different, regiments, different types of people within that order. So, learn up your lore, be creative, do something you like. Don't be afraid to change anything. I've definitely changed a lot. So, your first time is not going to be the easiest time. You're going to come in and be like, oh, I got this cool idea. But in the end, sometimes it doesn't work out. Just be like, oh, well, darn, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to make, next time even better. So, don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to be creative. But at least just be creative to a limit. Don't be, super duper crazy. I'm the son of Arthas, and Illidan is my roommate or something.
All right. Well, that's excellent advice. Now, would you suggest joining an RP guild or trying it out on your own first?
I would definitely, kind of get your bearings down first. Don't just jump into an RP guild right away. Definitely kind of solo flight it a little bit. Kind of tweak it, change it every now and then try and find a roleplay guild. Because sometimes, roleplay guilds will definitely help you roleplay. We've got some people in, the Argent Onslaught that don't roleplay, and we've been teaching them how to roleplay. But they've came in with an idea, and we're kind of helping them with that idea. Think of it as like that. Think of the guild as kind of like a vehicle for you. We're going to kind of, teach you, we're going to kind of carry you a little bit until you know what you're doing, and then by then you'll be, a great role player, and we'll accept you, and it'll be great. We're not going to, hound you anymore. Like, hey, you want to role? Oh, wait, you can't.
Right. Well, excellent advice, sir. And again, I think what you say is very true in that look up your lore, base your character around that, but be creative with it, because there's as a role player, there's so much that you can do just by using our imagination and to make your character come to life. And just like in the real world, people are different, and so you don't want to have a world just full of Bjorns, though that would be awesome. Everybody just headbutting all the mobs down, and could you imagine just the awesome spectacle that would be, sir?
Man, a world full of Theas, that would be adorable.
Yeah, but be creative with your character, and do something that you enjoy doing, and something that people will enjoy RPing with as well. So excellent advice. And so, folks, when we come back, we're going to give our final thoughts and our goodbyes to Bjorn. So we'll be right back with that. Alrighty, and we are back. And so, Bjorn, is there anything you'd like to add that we might have missed during the interview?
Well, I would like to give a shout out to the Argent Onslaught, of course. We should be having a guild interview from you shortly, I heard. So, a little bit beforehand, off the cuff, If you're looking for a good guild, neutral roleplay guild, heavy RP, D20 events almost weekly, you should definitely give us a look. If a Cenarian, if a crazy smelly hippie like me somehow gets into a Cenarian, Cenarian like me gets into the Argent guild, we're kind of like, who wants to smell like hippie in their military guild, It's just a great group of guys. We hound each other, we give each other, hard time, but, in the end, we're a pretty big family. We love each other, we have a good time. And of course, last but not least, I definitely suggest, on top of the creativity part, kind of look for other outlets of RP, Like Thea here. I've roleplayed Thea for a few years. She's a almost a great vehicle for my roleplay, because I would be role-playing with her, and, people would be like, sending me tells like, oh my god, that's adorable, or oh my god, Thea is almost better than me. And people really like Thea, so much the fact that I actually have a cult of Thea following that follows her around and feeds her and stuff like that. So,
Well,
just be creative,
yeah.
a non-combat pet, and just enjoy it.
Wonderful, sir. Well, excellent. So, folks, again, this has been just a wonderful time with Bjorn of the Argent Onslaught and Thea. And so thank you very much, sir, for taking the time tonight to talk to us about your RP and a little bit about you as well. And again, we always enjoy meeting folks and learning about their RP and their wonderful creativity, especially with like Thea here and your story with Bjorn and kind of what he does in the RP community. So again, we really appreciate you taking the time to answer all of Turwinkle's pestering questions tonight.
Oh, it was definitely fun. I'm pretty sure the 5'10", hairy, stocky, hefty bearman has nothing better to do than to hibernate.
Alrighty, folks, with that, we're going to see Turwinkle safe and sound back to Chillwind Camp. So we'll see you folks there. Alrighty, folks, as you can see, we made it safe and sound back to Chillwind Camp. And boy, Turwinkle, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Indubitably.
You bet. So let's give Bjorn a nice thank you for taking the time tonight to talk to us about his roleplay.
Thank you.
You bet. And so, folks, if you like this episode, click that like button. If you'd like to comment on this episode or on any of our previous episodes, please do so below. Let us know what you liked and let us know what you didn't. And finally, if you'd like to subscribe, well, we would love to have you. So hit that subscription button today. Well, excellent job as always, Turwinkle. And, sir, we will see you next time.
I'll miss you.
We'll miss you too, Turwinkle. Bye-bye.